You're in my studio, Stitched by Susan. We've got a great big broad view today because I thought it would be kind of fun to show you something a little bit different. I regularly host Friday live streams that are quilting in real time and even loading quilts in real time. However, just because I'm instructing so much and offering so much information and often chatting about other things while I'm loading, you don't get to see the whole thing as it would be in time when I'm loading it in my studio. So I thought you might like to see today how fast a queen size quilt could be loaded. So I'm chattering on a little bit because I'm just giving a few more people time to tune in before I actually start into the loading process. And we're starting to get a couple now. It takes YouTube a minute to tell people that I'm here. This is part of just a series of impromptu lives that I'm doing last week, this week, and next week. I'm gearing up towards enrollment into my freehand quilting masterclass. So it's just an opportunity to share a little bit from within my studio and what I'm about when it comes to quilting. Now we're starting to get people tuning in. Great. So a couple things you ought to know about me. I love edge to edge, comfort type, couch type quilts. So almost Utarian style quilting, but I love to show how it can absolutely be beautiful and a lot of times how you can do that freehand. So that's my love, freehand quilting. But I also, my natural tendency is to figure out efficient ways to do things. So you're going to get to see today my efficient way to load a quilt. And I've got a large queen-sized quilt. It is 97 inches square, which is a very, very generous queen. And I think I can load it in 10 minutes or less. So I'm not going to talk very much while I'm doing it because I'll probably be breathing heavy and I don't want to puff into the microphone. And I just want to see how fast that real time is without sort of talking and explanations and so forth throughout. So I've got a big old camera view so that you can see, I'm going to turn it a little bit, so you can see my whole machine as I load. I think there's enough of you here now that I'm going to launch right into it. So again, queen size quilt, 97 inches square, and I'm going to be loading it using my red snapper system and my sort of no measure, no center system. But still, I do not want to sacrifice any quality of squareness or flatness for this quilt. So I will be applying care and attention as I load it, but you'll see how quick it is. So pardon me while I kind of dive in and out of the camera, you know, because it is a big thing and I've got bits of it laid on the floor. And of course, I'm going to be running around the machine. So without further ado, we're going to start into loading Connie's quilt. I have looked at this in advance to see where the seams are, but I got to look again to make sure that I'm getting them going horizontally on this backing. Feel free to type in questions if you have them as I go, and I'll take time to answer a few when I'm finished. But also know that I do fairly regular live and unscripted episodes on YouTube on Fridays, where I do this same process but talk a lot more through it and the whys and wherefores of what I'm doing. So you can also go and watch those if you want to see a little bit more instructional value. They're not really lessons either, but I do tend to talk through it a bit more. can see I'm getting a pretty full quilt on my frame. This backing is over 100 in both directions. 106 actually. So I couldn't go much larger. I'm certainly watching as I go to make sure that my edges are rolling on straight. That's double check that it's rolling on exactly straight, because that's important. My backing loaded. Beautiful. The edges look nice and straight. Great. How are we doing for time? 8 minutes. Perfect. And the first two, I feel like I was talking. This is my batting, which I've pre-cut. About 4 inches wider than my quilt. I'm just centering it, and I'm just doing this by eyeball. Centering it on my quilt backing. If you know me at all, you know I float my quilt tops. That also means I float my batting. I don't attach it on this front rail at all, it just floats. I'm just making sure that that first seam allowance, which comes up here very shortly, is laying flat. I could see a twist in under there. I will double check that again as I get close to it. Quilting. Let's bring out Connie's gorgeous quilt. Look at this. It's beautiful. There we go. It's on and ready to start stitching. Okay, let's see if there's some comments coming in. Oh, Chris, hello. Louise, hi. Barbara. Debbie, I love the way you load. I've adopted this method as well. You post about that lots, Debbie, and I appreciate it that it's working so well and you let me know. Debbie's asking how big is the backing. It's about 6 inches bigger in each direction, so it's about 100, 9 inches wide. Tony, you loaded, oh gosh, I picked something else here on my screen, sorry. You loaded the belly bar by clipping the snappers with your fingers. I've always seen it done with the palm of the hand. Snapper rod on top. Do you find your method easier for grip? I kind of do, and also if you noticed when I started, I had my leaders pulled up and attached at both ends so that my leader doesn't flop, it's held up, and that kind of positions it for me to do with my fingertips. That has just worked well for me. I missed how the backing flopped over and ended up under the dead bar. I'll watch again. Well, it's wrapped around that top bar, and I literally just pull it under the dead bar and flop it over manually, like quite a ways over, so that when I'm rolling my backing on, I can see the leader and see when my backing approaches it. But absolutely, yes, watch any of my Friday Live and Unscripteds, or quite a lot of them, and you'll see that loading process in a bit more detail. Okay, you guys, I know that I've been just a little over 10 minutes now, but definitely I talked 2 minutes at the beginning, and definitely I've talked somewhat since. So it's ready to start quilting, ready to start basting first of all. So what I'm going to do next is baste both sides, baste that top edge, and then I have magnetic bars that I'll put along the front, because the front of my quilt is not rolled on to a bar, but it does still need to be held securely so it can't shift, and I do that with magnetic bars. So that's my next steps, and that's what loading looks like for me. A few more comments just buzzed in. Regarding how big the backing is it 6 inches total longer for length and 6 inches total more for width, or 12 more each way? I usually suggest to my clients 8 inches, so 4 on each side, total of 8 bigger. That gives me enough room for sure to have a little leverage on the sides to clip onto. And so often they like play it a little shy. So then if I said 3, I might only get 2, but if I say 4, I get 3. Does that make sense? It's not a very nice thing to say about my clients, but often true. This client, Connie, is the best. She is great. She does beautiful quilts. Timing really was longer since you said you had the batting already cut and prepared. I'm not criticizing, just realized it would take me longer. I mean, that is true, Louise. You know, also if I was going to include the basting, then it might be winding bobbins and things like that. So true, I did not include prep in this. I only had loading, and I had already looked at my back and made sure it was big enough and all of those things and was prepped and ready beforehand. All right, you guys, I've got another appointment coming up, so I've got to run. Quilt is loaded. I'm ready to get to work today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.